Hello, friends. The sun beat down warmly on the quaint coastal town. It was a perfect summer's day. Fishermen cast their nets into the placid sea, their faces weathered by years of sun and salt. Children with bare feet raced along the shore, shrieking with laughter as the waves chased them. Life was good. The rhythmic whisper of the waves against the shore was the town's lullaby, a constant source of comfort and peace. But that very sea held a secret, a lurking danger that lay hidden beneath its tranquil surface. Like a tsunami, life can change in a moment. Far below the surface, an earthquake of immense proportions had just struck. It was a silent, invisible upheaval that sent shockwaves rippling through the depths of the ocean. The water, oblivious to the chaos beneath, continued its gentle dance on the surface, concealing the turmoil that was about to be unleashed. As the waves crashed on the shore, they carried with them tiny pebbles that had been smoothed by the relentless churning of the sea over countless years. These pebbles were like secrets whispered from the heart of the ocean, each one a story of resilience and adaptation. Just as these pebbles had endured the test of time, the people of the town had weathered countless storms. They had lived through seasons of joy and sorrow, of calm and chaos, and they had emerged stronger each time. But this storm would be unlike any they had ever known. The fishermen, with their years of experience at sea, felt a primal unease stirring within them. They sensed something was amiss, yet they couldn't fathom the magnitude of the disaster that was about to befall them. Even the children, with their innocent laughter echoing across the shore, seemed to sense an impending change, a feeling that made their carefree play a bit more frantic, their laughter a tad louder. Then, as if nature itself was holding its breath, the tide began to retreat. At first it was subtle, almost imperceptible. The waterline receded a few feet, exposing a bit more sand to the sun. But as moments turned into minutes, the water kept pulling back, revealing a vast expanse of seabed that had never before been seen. This unnatural stillness, this sudden absence of the sea, was a sight that had only been witnessed in old tales and myths, a harbinger of some great upheaval, some mighty force returning to claim what was rightfully hers. The fishermen, their instincts screaming danger, rushed to secure their boats, their movements sharp and quick. Years at sea had taught them the language of the ocean, and they knew that when the sea retreated, it didn't do so willingly. The retreating tide created a cacophony of sounds, the screeching of seagulls, the creaking of boats, and the distant rumble that spoke of a power far greater than any storm they had known. As the water receded further, exposing the seabed, the townspeople began to gather at the shore. Curiosity and a touch of fear drew them towards the water's edge. Their chatter, their whispers, their nervous laughter echoed strangely in the eerie silence that had replaced the soothing roar of the waves. In the distance, on the horizon, a dark line appeared. It was faint at first, just a smudge against the vast expanse of the sea. But as it grew larger, as it loomed closer, their worst fears were confirmed. It was a wall of water, a monstrous wave that rose higher than any building in town, higher than any landmark they had ever known. It was as if the ocean itself had risen up, not to lap gently at the shore, not to whisper secrets to the land, but to reclaim what was hers, to roar back to life with a vengeance. There was no siren, no warning, just the eerie silence that amplified the terror in their hearts. As the wave approached, the air grew heavy, thick with moisture and dread. It was as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath, sharing in the collective gasp of the people who stood frozen on the shore. This was no ordinary wave. This was a tsunami. Like a freight train thundering towards its destination, the wave crashed into the town. It was a violent intrusion, a force of nature unleashed, and it swept away everything in its path. Houses were uprooted as if they were mere toys, cars tossed about like corks in a whirlpool, trees snapped like twigs. The wave roared, a deafening crescendo of destruction, obliterating the tranquility of the seaside town. Amidst the havoc, amidst the wreckage, amidst the despair, there were glimmers of humanity that shone through. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers comforting strangers, hands reaching out to those who stumbled, voices calling out to those who were lost. The community, once scattered, once broken, was coming together. They were sharing what little they had, offering solace to those who had lost everything. In the face of such overwhelming disaster, the petty differences that had once divided them, the minor squabbles and trivial conflicts, all of it seemed so insignificant, so distant. Amidst the ruins of the town, amidst the debris of their lives, the people discovered something profound. They discovered the strength that lay dormant within them, the courage that bloomed in the harshest of climates, and the compassion that united them in their shared suffering. The wave had taken much, but it hadn't taken everything. It had left behind the indomitable spirit of the people, the spirit that refused to be buried under the wreckage. It left behind the bonds of community, the ties of kinship, and the embers of hope that refused to be extinguished. The immediate aftermath of the tsunami was a blur of activity. Rescue workers from various regions descended upon the devastated town. The survivors, still reeling from the shock of the disaster, clung to whatever hope they could find. Each passing hour brought new challenges, from ensuring the safety of those who remained to tending to the injured and searching for the missing. Yet amidst this organized chaos, there were moments of levity, instances that brought a smile to tearful faces, a laugh to trembling lips. These moments, however brief, were lifelines. They reminded the people that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could endure. The days that followed were a mix of despair and determination. Despair at the loss, the destruction, the despair that threatened to engulf them. But determination burned brighter. The survivors of the tsunami pulled together. They salvaged what they could from the wreckage, consoled those who had lost loved ones, and started the arduous task of rebuilding. They cleared the debris, brick by brick, hope by hope. They shared stories, they shared meals, they shared dreams. They looked towards the future, a future that seemed bleak, yet which they were determined to make their own. But perhaps the most remarkable thing that emerged from the ruins was the unity, the solidarity that bound the townspeople together. The tsunami had taken much, but it hadn't been able to take away their spirit, their will to survive, their will to thrive. And as weeks turned into months and months into years, the town began to look like a testament to the human spirit. Homes were rebuilt, stronger and more resilient than before. Businesses reopened, symbolizing not just economic recovery, but a return to normalcy. The scars of the tsunami were still visible, but so was the strength that had been forged in the fires of adversity. This wasn't just a story of destruction and despair, it was also a story of wisdom, a wisdom born out of tragedy, nurtured through resilience, and strengthened by the bonds of community. It was a wisdom that told them that life could change in an instant, that the serenity of the sea could turn into a raging storm, that the stability of life could crumble into dust. But it was also a wisdom that told them that in the face of such upheaval, they weren't just survivors, they were warriors. Warriors who had stared into the abyss and emerged with a newfound respect for life, for each other, and for the power of the universe. As the sun rose over the sea once again, casting its golden rays on the rebuilt town, it seemed as if nature herself was acknowledging this resilience, this courage, this indomitable spirit. For in the end, it wasn't just a town that had been rebuilt. It was a community, a family, a spirit that had risen from the depths of despair to reach new heights of hope and glory. From the ashes of the old, something new had risen. Not just a building or a business, but a testament to the human spirit. And in that spirit, the people found their true wealth, their real prosperity. It was a prosperity that wasn't measured in material possessions, but in the strength of their bonds, the depth of their compassion, and the brilliance of their courage. Storms don't come to break you, They come to clear your path. And the sun, after every storm, shines a little brighter, illuminating a world that's a little cleaner, a little purer, a little more hopeful. Thank you.